Hi, this is Loy Gross with the Learning Center at Genesee Community College, and in this video, I'm going to show you just enough Excel so that you can get your homework assignments done at GCC. First, I want to talk about the data that I'm using because I wanted to use something fun. These are some of the more popular board games that I like to play, and these up here are some of the locations around Genesee County where me and my friends and family play the games. And so I want to graph this data. So the first thing I want to do to graph my data is I'm going to highlight the data I'm choosing. And you notice that I do include my titles, okay, in both up and down, but I don't include the totals. You never include the totals on your graph. The totals are much larger than any other data point. So if you put the totals in your graph, it's going to make the whole graph look wonky. So yes titles, no totals. So I'll go over here to insert. Insert recommended charts, and this is something that Excel does pretty well. It's going to recommend a variety of charts that you might want to try to see, what your data would look like in different formats. I want to take a moment and talk about the four most popular chart types and what they're commonly used for. So let's talk about a line chart. Line charts are typically used to indicate how data is trending over time. So if you have sales per month, that would be a good thing for a line chart. Pie charts. A pie chart indicates percentage of a whole. So you notice the pie chart has a limitation. It only picked up the first column of data, the Go Art column. Pie charts will only pick up the first column of data. So if I wanted to do a pie chart for this particular data, I would have to do four of them, one for each location. But it does give me a very good indication of how much of plays each game takes up. So I can see these two here, Azul and Sagrada, are very popular games and take a lot of plays. I want to talk about a scatter chart. Scatter charts are frequently used in business and indicate trends. So we can look at the different trend lines and see how they're going. But my data is more of a comparison. And for comparison, we're typically going to use a bar chart, often called a clustered bar. And that shows my data in comparison to the other. So I'm going to click on OK and let Excel go ahead and make that chart. You notice the chart has these little roundels on the sides, and I can use those to click and drag and make my chart bigger so that I can read it better. But really, what I want to do is with the handles on the chart, I want to click on the Move Chart button. And I'm going to move the chart to its own sheet. I'll give it a name, Board Game Chart, and click OK. And why do I want to move this chart to its own tab? Well, typically when you're making an Excel chart, you're not going to leave it in Excel. You're eventually going to embed it in a Word document or a PowerPoint presentation, or maybe you're going to export it as a picture. All of those things are much easier to do if the chart exists on its own tab. And my data did not go away. If you look, and down here, I can click on sheet one. Whoop, there's my data, and here's my chart. They're just on two separate tabs. All right, so let's talk about my data and how it's presented here. In the way that the Excel has chosen to present it, each game has its own grouping and then the locations are together. That's really great if I want to say, for example, this game here, Magic Maze, it's super popular when we play it at the library, but it's not popular anywhere else. But maybe that's not the data I want. Maybe I want to see by location. Well, if I look under Chart Design, there's a handy dandy button called Switch Row Column. I love this button. And when I click on that button, now you notice my locations are on the left and the games are down here in the legend. So I can see, for example, that the most popular game at the library is 5-Minute Dungeon. Now let's talk about the chart types. Up here are some different chart styles, and we have the default style, but if I hover my mouse over each different style, you'll notice it shows me a variety of colors and patterns and designs, different ways that this chart could look. Let's say eventually I want to put this chart into a PowerPoint, and I might be displaying it on an overhead projector. So maybe I want to use a black background or a dark background with light text, and that would display better on a projector. So I'll just click and select that one, and now my chart is formatted in that style. It's a great way to format the whole chart. But what if you only want to change one element of a chart? Let's say, for example, this chart title. That's not a very interesting title. The rule of thumb to remember is that you double click on an item to change it, and you right click on the item to change the properties. So let's double click on my chart title here. Now I can click in here and I can change the title. And what did I call this? Board game plays by location. So double click to edit, or I can also click on it and right click, and now I can change various items. I can change the color, I can change the font. Let's change the font. Let's make the font something really fun. Oh, I don't know, curls. Curls sounds good. And let's make it much bigger than 16. Let's make it 24 and give it an OK. And now it's changed the font. And notice that Excel has moved everything around to make room for the changes that I've made. So any element of this chart, you can do the same thing. Let's say I want to emphasize this 5-minute dungeon over here. I can click on that item. I can right click. And let's say we're going to make it, bright screaming red. There. Now, everywhere where 5-minute dungeon shows up in my graph, it is bright screaming red. And you can do that with any element of the chart. Double click to edit, right click to change the properties. And that's enough Excel that you can get your homework done. Look for a future video on how to embed these Excel charts into your Word document or your PowerPoint.